Back to our top story now for a moment. The controversy over the Bergdahl prisoner swap has dominated the headlines, overshadowing the president's trip to honor D-Day vets and reassure NATO allies worried about Vladimir Putin. It has many questioning the president's leadership. And this comes as brand new Fox News polls show only 40% of Americans approve of the job that the president is doing right now, down 4 points from last month. Joining us now, Pat Buchanan, former senior advisor to Presidents Nixon, Ford, and Reagan. Welcome. Great to see you again. I'm really anxious to hear some of your thoughts. You know, the president in Europe this week, the spotlight, though, on what's happening back home, and the fact that many people are questioning what is the upside for the president on this, knowing that his approval ratings are already low, but that he's involved in this prisoner swap where you have 5 high-level Taliban leaders there who are being released in exchange for one sergeant with a questionable past. Where do you see this thing going?
Well, you ask where is the upside? There is none. I mean, the White House had a ceremony last Saturday, 1 week ago, in the Rose Garden that they thought would be a great public relations victory. And as you said yourself, it's been a disaster for him. It's tracked him all over Europe. It's diverted him from attention to the diplomatic issues in Poland, in Brussels, in Paris, and Normandy. It has deeply divided the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, from the armed forces he leads. The bitterness and the outrage, we've seen it on Fox News and other places, of soldiers. When Susan Rice went on national television last Sunday to present this fellow as a man who fought with honor and distinction and was captured on a battlefield, that's completely the opposite of the truth that everyone else knows. Now, where did they get this? I think, quite candidly, the President of the United States has been horribly served, and I don't know who in the White House is responsible for this debacle, but I haven't seen a public relations debacle and a diplomatic and political debacle like this in a long, long time.
And you would know, because certainly you have been on the front lines there in the White House under several different presidents. Let me call up a sound right now where we hear the president defending his actions.
We had a prisoner of war whose health had deteriorated, and we were deeply concerned about, and we saw an opportunity, and we seized it, and I make no apologies for that.
He makes no apologies for that, but then the story changes later in the week, saying that they were concerned about leaks from Congress about this high-level swap that was going to be taking place.
He's saying we have a soldier who was ill, and we wanted to get him home. There is nothing wrong with that and everything right about that. But the president did not discuss the fact that he walked into the Rose Garden and, in effect, did something that was comparable to trading 5 Nazi generals in return to getting Private Slovak, the deserter, back. Eisenhower would never have done that. The president, I mean, whoever put the president out there to do this without informing him that, look, Uma, we've had a 5-day, 6-day, 7-day firestorm from an event in the Rose Garden.
A week ago today. A week ago today when the release was announced.
Who sat in the Roosevelt room when they were deciding this, say, on Friday, that we're going to bring the parents of Bergdahl in, and we're going to talk about the 5 people going to release? Did no one in the Roosevelt room stand up and say, are you folks aware this fellow's been charged with desertion and maybe collaboration, that he's no hero, and that a lot of folks in the military are going to be deeply angry about this, that our Afghan allies and that our own people are going to be outraged over giving away 5 Taliban killers? I mean, think of our Afghan allies. I mean, you just reported that Abdullah was the victim or the target of a terrorist attack, the future president, by the Taliban yesterday, and they didn't know this was going to happen, and they're going to have to deal with this, these 5 people, when the Americans go home. I can't think of a single standpoint from which this is not a humiliation and a defeat for the United States. And one final point on that, if it were any kind of victory for the United States, why are the Taliban the ones showing the film and the footage and the helicopter going away?
That's what I want to ask you about.
And don't come back to Afghanistan? You
recently wrote, I thought it was very interesting in your column, that showing the release of the Taliban, the video the Taliban released, of the helicopter flying away recalls an image 40 years ago when the helicopter was taking off from the roof of the embassy in Saigon when we lost the war to Vietnam, and you brought parallels to that, to that moment in history.
Exactly. Well, here's you saw the Taliban bring this pale, sickly American out and give him back and say, don't ever come back to Afghanistan. And you see that helicopter going out there. I mean, to some of us of a certain age, We remember the helicopter going off the roof of that embassy and people trying to get onto the skids of the helicopters and how horrible it was. What that message they were sending is, goodbye, Americans, you've been defeated, here's your prisoner back. And, I mean, why are they the ones showing the footage if they don't see it as a victory for them and a defeat for the United States? And I do believe this is a diplomatic, political defeat for the United States, and it's going to damage and hurt our allies in Afghanistan, the ones we leave behind.
It's a very sobering scenario that you're pointing out there and giving to us. Always good to see you,
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.